It started like any other Friday night. My friends Kyle, Rhea, and I were hanging out at a semi-sketchy dive bar called The Crate down on 12th and Lex. It was mostly regulars and old pinball machines with a jukebox that only played 80s hits. We weren't there for anything big, just drinks, some laughs, and a break from school stress. At around 10:30, I got up to use the bathroom. It was tucked away at the end of a narrow hallway past the kitchen. The men's room smelled like old bleach and rust. I went into the far stall, and while closing the door, I noticed something carved into the inside panel. It wasn't your usual "call this number for a good time" type of graffiti. It just said, "Look under the sink, then go down." Naturally, I looked under the sink. Just cleaning supplies. A mop bucket, some bleach bottles, a rag stuffed into a drain. Nothing special, so I forgot about it. Until an hour later, I went to the bathroom again. This time, the hallway lights flickered as I walked by the kitchen. I thought nothing of it, but when I entered the stall, I swear something had changed. The cleaning supplies under the sink were gone. Instead, there was a small hatch built into the wall, a kind of dumbwaiter door. It hadn't been there before. I reached out and opened it. Inside was a narrow, rusted metal chute. I could see a ladder leading down. There was a sticky note stuck to the inside of the door. Written in black Sharpie, it said, "Only the brave descend. You won't be alone." I stood there frozen for a moment. My first instinct was to back off, but then curiosity kicked in. I ran back to the bar and told Kyle and Rhea. Rhea immediately said, "Hell yes, let's check it out." Kyle was hesitant, but he followed us anyway. We waited until last call, then snuck back into the bathroom once the place was nearly empty. Rhea had a mini flashlight on her keychain. I had a decent pocket knife. Kyle brought nothing except a flask and a sarcastic attitude. We opened the hatch. The metal ladder looked old, but stable. One by one, we climbed down. At first, the descent was uneventful, just cold, metal rungs and silence. But about 20 feet down, the ladder ended at a concrete platform. It was dimly lit by a single overhead bulb, swinging slightly as if it had just been disturbed. There were 2 doors. One said, "Employees only." The other had a red X slashed over it in what looked like dried paint. Or something worse. We debated. Kyle wanted to go back up, but Rhea, being the most fearless among us, went for the door with the red X. It wasn't locked. It creaked open to reveal a hallway, long, narrow, and lined with decaying movie posters. "Why are there movie posters down here?" I asked. "I think this place used to be a theater," Rhea replied, shining her light across one of the walls. The posters were for ancient films, titles I didn't recognize, like The Hungry Ones and The Man with Hollow Eyes. The hallway led to a stairwell. Down. Always down. We descended 3 flights before reaching another landing. The air was damp, thick, and carried the smell of wet wood and mildew. At the end of the hallway was a door with a keypad lock. It was old, the kind with the mechanical push buttons. Someone had written a code in dust, 4321. Rhea punched it in. The lock clicked. The door opened slowly, revealing a massive room, maybe an old boiler room. But it wasn't empty. There were things, tables, chairs, cots, chains on the walls, and what looked like a small surveillance setup in the corner. though most of it was covered in grime and rust. "This is not okay," Kyle whispered. We heard something. Footsteps. Not ours. Someone else was down here. We hid behind one of the large boilers. A minute later, a man came through the doorway. He was tall, wearing overalls and gloves, dragging a black trash bag that thudded heavily on the concrete floor. He walked across the room and into another hallway, disappearing from view. "Did you see that bag?" Kyle whispered. "It was shaped like a person." We waited a full 10 minutes before moving. Rhea motioned us forward, leading us down the hallway the man had gone through. This one was narrower and curved slowly to the right, like a corkscrew. It took us to a room filled with metal filing cabinets, old files, birth certificates, school photos, social security cards, all of children. "This guy's keeping records," I said. "He's been doing this for a long time." Rhea found a locked cabinet marked with a yellow sticker. Her flashlight beam danced over the label. Archive, 1976 to 1989. The lock was old. I jammed my knife into it, pried it loose, and opened the drawer. Inside were folders. Each had a photo attached. Kids. Dozens of them. Their eyes blacked out with marker. Kyle took a step back. "Number, we need to leave now." But then we heard it again. Footsteps. Close. We ran. Back through the winding hallway. Back through the boiler room. But the door with the keypad wouldn't open from the inside. We were trapped. That's when the man reappeared. He didn't speak, just stared. We backed away, trying to move toward the boilers again, but he started walking. Fast. Rhea grabbed a metal rod and swung it at him. It connected. He grunted but didn't fall. I helped her, throwing the nearest thing I could. An old chair. Kyle was already trying to scale one of the walls. I screamed at him to help, but he just said, "I'm sorry, I can't. The man tackled Rhea. The rod slipped from her hand. He dragged her toward the back hallway. I lunged after him, grabbed the rod, and struck him again and again. He didn't fall, but he let go of her. And then something behind us exploded in light. Red flashing emergency lights filled the boiler room. A loud siren started blaring. The man screamed, more like a roar, and bolted out of the room. We stood there, shaking, disoriented. "Did we trigger some kind of alarm?" Kyle asked. I nodded. "Maybe, but we need to find another way out." Rhea, still panting, pointed at a small access door behind one of the boilers. We opened it. Inside was a crawl space, barely 3 feet high, but it had a faint breeze running through it. We got down and started crawling, for what felt like forever. Eventually, we emerged in a dusty locker room, one that looked untouched for decades. On the far end, light spilled in through cracked windows. Kyle kicked open a rotted door and we found ourselves outside, behind a boarded-up building 3 blocks from the bar. The cold night air hit us like a wall. We ran. Later that night, we reported everything. The police went back, searched the area. Nothing. The hatch in the bar bathroom, gone, replaced with old plumbing. No boiler room, no kid records, no sign of the man. They said we imagined it, a shared psychosis. But I still have that metal rod. It's got blood on the tip. Lab tests say it's human, AB negative. but they couldn't trace it to anyone. It's been a year. I don't talk to Kyle anymore. He dropped out and moved away. Rhea and I are still close, but we don't talk about that night. Sometimes I wake up from dreams of a twisting hallway and flickering lights. And sometimes, when I'm walking late at night, I see the number 4321 scrawled in chalk on random walls, phone booths, bus stops. Sometimes I think he's still out there, waiting for someone else brave enough to go down.